Have you ever found yourself staring at the ceiling at night, wondering if there's more to life than what you're experiencing? Perhaps you achieved the goals society told you would bring fulfillment, the career, the relationships, the material comforts, yet still feel persistent emptiness, a sense that something essential is missing. Or maybe you're just beginning your adult journey and already questioning whether conventional paths laid out before you will truly lead to a meaningful existence. If these thoughts have crossed your mind, you're not alone. In fact, you're part of a growing chorus of voices asking the same fundamental question: how we find real meaning in our modern world, a world that moves at breakneck speed, bombards us with endless distractions, and often seems to prioritize productivity and consumption over deeper human needs? Today, we're going to explore this question together, not with platitudes or oversimplified answers, but by diving into both timeless wisdom and contemporary insights about what create a life of genuine meaning. And I promise you this, by the end of our conversation, you'll have practical pathways to explore and a clearer understanding of how to cultivate meaning in your own unique circumstances. Let's begin by acknowledging something that might feel uncomfortable. Meaning isn't something you find, like a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered. Despite what many self-help books might suggest, meaning isn't a secret object you can possess once you know where to look. Rather, meaning is something you create, cultivate, and experience. It emerges from how you engage with your life and the world around you. Viktor Frankl, the renowned psychiatrist who survived the Nazi concentration camps, observed this truth under the most extreme circumstances imaginable. In his book, Man's Search for Meaning, he wrote, "Life ultimately means taking responsibility to find the right answer to its problems and fulfill the tasks which it constantly sets for each individual." In other words, meaning isn't handed to us. It emerges when we respond to life's challenges and opportunities with intention and purpose. This perspective shifts the question from where can I find meaning to how can I create and experience meaning? And that's a question we can actually answer in practical, applicable ways. Before we explore these pathways to meaning, it's worth understanding why this question feels particularly urgent in our modern context. What is it about contemporary life that makes meaning sometimes feel so elusive? For most of human history, meaning came pre-packaged in cultural and religious frameworks. People were born into communities with established roles, traditions, and belief systems that answered the big questions. Why are we here? What makes a good life? What happens after death? While these frameworks certainly had their limitations, they provided a reliable structure for meaning-making. Today, many of us live in pluralistic societies where we're exposed to countless worldviews and value systems. We have unprecedented freedom to chart our own course, but this freedom comes with the responsibility of creating our own meaning. As the philosopher Eric Fromm noted, modern man has transformed himself into a commodity. His value as a person lies in his salability, not in his human qualities of love, reason, or artistic capacity. In other words, we've exchanged clear meaning structures for marketplace values that often leave us internally empty. Add to this the accelerating pace of life, the constant digital distractions, the environmental crises, political polarization, economic uncertainties. It's no wonder meaning can feel hard to grasp. We're navigating terrain our ancestors never imagined, often without the stable community structures that traditionally help people weather life's inevitable challenges. But here's the good news. Humans are meaning-making creatures. It's one of our most remarkable capabilities. Even in the most difficult circumstances, we can create meaning, not by escaping our reality, but by engaging with it more deeply and intentionally. So let's explore the pathways that both ancient wisdom and modern research suggest lead to a meaningful life. These aren't sequential steps, but rather interconnected dimensions that, when cultivated together, create a rich tapestry of meaning. The first pathway is purpose, the sense that your life and actions matter beyond your own immediate experience. Purpose isn't necessarily about grand achievements or changing the world, though it can include those things. At its heart, purpose is about contributing to something larger than yourself in ways that align with your values and utilize your unique gifts. Finding purpose begins with two simple but profound questions. What do I care about? And how can I express that care through action? Notice that these questions shift focus from what you want from the world to what you can offer to it. This subtle but powerful reorientation is key to discovering purpose. A woman I know named Elena provides a wonderful example of how purpose can emerge from unexpected places. After losing her husband to cancer, Elena found herself overwhelmed with grief during his illness. She had observed how frightened many patients were to ask questions about their care. Drawing on her professional background in education, she began volunteering at the hospital, helping patients navigate difficult conversations with their healthcare providers. What began as a small way to honor her husband's memory gradually evolved into a nonprofit organization that trains patient advocates across the country. Elena didn't start with a grand vision. She simply noticed a need that intersected with her abilities and took one small step. Purpose often unfolds this way, not through dramatic epiphanies, but through attentive response to what's needed in our immediate environment. Research confirms that purpose significantly contributes to psychological well-being. Studies show that people with a strong sense of purpose tend to live longer, recover from illness faster, and report higher levels of life satisfaction. Purpose provides a North Star that helps guide decisions and persevere through difficulties. The second pathway to meaning is connection. Deep, authentic relationships with others and the world around us. We are fundamentally social beings, wired for belonging and attachment. While modern life often emphasizes individual achievement and independence, meaningful connection remains essential to our well-being. These connections take multiple forms. There's the intimate bond with close friends and family, relationships where we're truly known and accepted. There's community belonging, the sense of being part of something collective, whether that a neighborhood, religious group, or shared interest community. And there's our connection to the natural world and the broader web of life that sustains us. Many people today experience what sociologists call the loss of the commons, the disappearance of spaces and structures that naturally facilitate connection. We live in separate houses, commute in private cars, work in competitive environments, and spend leisure time on individual devices. Creating meaning requires intentionally countering these isolating tendencies by cultivating genuine connection. This might look like prioritizing depth over breadth in relationships, investing in a few meaningful connections rather than maintaining dozens of superficial ones. It might involve joining or creating communities organized around shared values or purposes. Or it could mean regular immersion in natural environments that remind us of our place in the larger living system. A compelling example comes from a study of the blue zones, regions where people regularly live to 100+ years with remarkable health and well-being. While diet and activity levels play a role, researchers found that strong social connections were equally important determinants of longevity. In Okinawa, Japan, people form moais, groups of 5 friends committed to supporting each other throughout life. In Sardinia, Italy, multi-generational households and tight-knit communities provide constant opportunities for meaningful interaction. We don't need to move to a blue zone to create these kinds of connections. We simply need to prioritize them, making conscious choices about how we spend our time and attention. This means sometimes choosing the messiness of real human interaction over the controlled, but ultimately less satisfying world of digital connection. The third pathway to meaning is growth, the ongoing process of learning, developing, and transforming. Humans naturally find meaning in progression and becoming more tomorrow than we are today. Growth doesn't always mean achievement or advancement. It often involves deepening understanding, developing character, or expanding perspective. Psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi's research on flow, those immersive states where we're optimally challenged and engaged, shows that we find deep satisfaction in activities that stretch our capabilities without overwhelming them. Whether we're learning a musical instrument, developing a craft, exploring intellectual ideas, or working to become more patient or compassionate, growth experiences create meaning by connecting us to our potential. Growth often requires embracing discomfort and uncertainty. As the saying goes, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. This doesn't mean we should seek suffering for its own sake, but rather recognize that meaningful growth often emerges from engaging with challenge rather than avoiding it. Consider the story of Marcus, a former corporate lawyer, who found his work financially rewarding but spiritually depleting. After years of ignoring his dissatisfaction, he finally acknowledged that he needed a change. With considerable uncertainty, he left his firm to teach law at a community college. taking a significant pay cut in the process. The transition was challenging. He had to develop new skills, adapt to a different pace, and redefine success. But in embracing this discomfort, he discovered a depth of meaning his previous work had never provided. "I used to help wealthy corporations navigate legal loopholes," he told me. "Now I help first-generation college students understand how the legal system affects their communities. It's harder in many ways. The problems are more complex, the solutions less clear-cut. But I go home each day feeling like my life matters in a way it never did before." Marcus's story illustrates an important truth. Growth often involves letting go of some comforts or certainties to reach for something more aligned with our deeper values. This willingness to evolve, to outgrow previous versions of ourselves, creates a dynamic relationship with life that naturally generates meaning. The fourth pathway to meaning is transcendence, experiences that connect us to something beyond our individual existence. These might be traditionally religious experiences, but they can also emerge in secular contexts. The awe we feel in nature, the transcendent quality of great art or music, moments of deep connection with others, or insights that expand our understanding of reality. Research by psychologists Dr. Keltner and Jonathan Haidt shows that experiences of awe, being in the presence of something vast that transcends our understanding, can shift our perspective in meaning-enhancing ways. Awe experiences make our individual concerns seem less overwhelming and connect us to larger patterns and processes. They remind us that we're part of something much greater than ourselves. Many people find that regular practices that cultivate transcendence, whether through meditation, time in nature, artistic engagement, or religious ritual, provide a necessary counterbalance to the materialistic, achievement-oriented aspects of modern life. These practices reconnect us to dimensions of existence that can't be measured or monetized but are nonetheless essential to a meaningful life. A powerful example of transcendence comes from a hospice nurse I interviewed for another project. She described sitting with a dying patient who had been estranged from his daughter for years. In his final hours, the daughter arrived, and the nurse witnessed their reconciliation. In that room, she told me, all the petty disagreements that had seemed so important fell away. What remained was just love, imperfect, human love. It was like looking through a window into what really matters. Such moments of clarity often come in life's thresholds, births, deaths, major transitions. But we don't have to wait for dramatic circumstances to cultivate transcendence. Regular practices that invite us to step beyond our habitual perspectives can weave this dimension of meaning into everyday life. The fifth pathway to meaning is coherence, the sense that our lives make sense within some larger framework or narrative. Humans are storytelling creatures. We naturally seek to organize our experiences into meaningful patterns and narratives that explain who we are and why we're here. In traditional societies, coherence often came from shared cultural or religious narratives. Today, we have more responsibility for crafting our own life narratives, integrating various experiences and influences into a coherent sense of identity and purpose. Creating coherence doesn't mean forcing all experiences into a simplistic story where everything happens for a predetermined reason. Rather, it involves what psychologists call meaning-making, the ability to integrate even difficult experiences into an evolving understanding of ourselves and our place in the world. This meaning-making process is particularly important when facing adversity or trauma. Research by psychologist James Pennebaker shows that writing about difficult experiences in ways that help us make sense of them significantly improves both psychological and physical health. The act of crafting a coherent narrative around challenging events helps transform them from senseless suffering into meaningful, if difficult, parts of our life journey. Consider how different it feels to view a job loss as proof of my inadequacy versus a painful but important redirection toward work better suited to my strengths. Or how differently we might experience a relationship ending if we see it as evidence I'm unlovable versus a necessary though painful step in my growth as a person. The meaning we assign to our experiences profoundly shapes how we live with them. Crafting coherence isn't about toxic positivity or denying pain. It's about finding ways to integrate all our experiences, the joyful and the painful, the achievements and the failures, into a larger life narrative that helps us make sense of where we've been and where we're going. Now, having explored these 5 pathways to meaning, purpose, connection, growth, transcendence, and coherence, you might wonder how to practically apply them in your everyday life. Let me offer some concrete suggestions. First, conduct a meaning audit. Set aside time for honest reflection about which of these pathways feel most present in your life and which feel undernourished. No life perfectly balances all dimensions of meaning all the time, but identifying areas that need attention can guide your next steps. Second, start small but consistent. Meaning emerges from patterns of living, not isolated events. Small, regular actions often contribute more to meaning than occasional grand gestures. This might look like a weekly volunteer commitment, a daily creative practice, regular time in nature, or consistent investment in key relationships. Third, align your environment with your values. We're significantly influenced by our surroundings. Consider how your physical spaces, media consumption, and social circles either support or undermine the kind of meaningful life you want to create. Making even small adjustments to these environmental factors can substantially impact your experience of meaning. Fourth, develop reflective practices. Meaning doesn't automatically emerge from experience. It requires reflection, whether through journaling, conversation with trusted friends, meditation, or artistic expression. Find ways to regularly process your experiences and connect them to your evolving understanding of what matters most. Fifth, embrace psychological flexibility. The pathways to meaning will look different for each person, and they'll change throughout your life. What creates meaning in your 20s may differ from what creates meaning in your 40s or 70s. Stay curious about what brings you alive, what feels significant, what connects you to something larger than yourself. As we begin to wrap up our exploration, I want to address a question that might be on your mind. What about happiness? Isn't that what we're really seeking? The relationship between meaning and happiness is fascinating and complex. Research distinguishes between hedonic well-being, feeling good, and eudaimonic well-being, living well with purpose and fulfillment. While these often overlap, they sometimes diverge. Raising children, caring for aging parents, creating art, working for social change. These meaningful endeavors aren't always happiness maximizing in the moment. They involve struggle, sacrifice, and challenge alongside moments of joy. Yet, paradoxically, lives organized around meaning often produce more sustained well-being than those organized around a direct pursuit of happiness. As philosopher John Stuart Mill observed, those only are happy who have their minds fixed on some object other than their own happiness. Aiming thus at something else, they find happiness, by the way. This doesn't mean we should seek suffering or neglect simple pleasures. Rather, it suggests that a meaningful life embraces the full spectrum of human experience, joy and sorrow, ease and effort, certainty and mystery, and finds value in the entire journey, not just the comfortable parts. As we conclude, I want to leave you with a thought that I find both challenging and liberating. Meaning isn't something you discover once and possess forever. It's something you create daily through your choices, your attention, and your engagement with life. This means the question isn't, have I found meaning? But rather, am I living in ways that create meaning today? This perspective shifts meaning from a distant destination to an ongoing practice, one available to all of us, regardless of circumstances. Whether you're 18 or 80, whether life has unfolded as you hoped or taken unexpected turns, the opportunity to live meaningfully is always present in how you engage with this moment and the next. I'd love to hear your thoughts about where you find meaning in your life. What practices or perspectives help you connect with purpose, deepen relationships, embrace growth, experience transcendence, or create coherence? Share your insights in the comments. Your experience might be exactly what another viewer needs to hear. If you found value in this exploration, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the wisdom of human nature. Together, we're creating a community of people committed to living with greater awareness, purpose, and meaning, even amidst the complexities of modern life. Thank you for joining me in this conversation. Until next time, may your days be filled not just with happiness, but with a deeper satisfaction that comes from a life rich in meaning.